Today I am going to deliver a lecture on classification of welding and joint. In previous class I have already discussed about introduction of welding. At the end of that lecture I have already started about classification of welding. There we have seen there are generally two different types of joining process are there. One is mechanical bonding, another one is atomic bonding. In atomic bonding categories generally welding comes. Based on different types of aspects, we have also seen that welding can be categorized depending on source of heat, depending on its mechanism, depending on its phases of base and flare material, depending on its mechanism. Now today I am going to deliver a lecture on classification of welding and joint. This is the content of today's lecture, that is classification of welding, types of weld joints, type of edge preparation, shape and name of different weld and different parts of a weld joints. Classification of welding actually I have already started in yesterday's class, where we have seen there is different aspects. Based on different aspect we can categorize the welding process in 6 different categories that can be depending upon the source of heat, depending upon the application of pressure, depending upon the different phases of base and flare material, depending upon the composition of the joint, depending upon the position of electrode and depending upon the mechanism. So, in first lecture or in previous lecture I have already discussed about depending upon the source of heat and its categories I have already explained in details. This is the different welding techniques which generally categorize depending upon the source of it. I have already explained in detail. Now we will discuss the rest of the welding categories. Like depending upon the application of pressure, this welding can be further categorized into 2 different categories. This can be, one is pressure welding, another categories can be non-pressure welding, or this is sometimes called fusion welding. This is popularly known as fusion welding. Generally in pressure welding, the pieces of metal to be joined are heated to a plastic state and forced together by external pressure. As here external pressure is applied for joining purpose, that is why this is called pressure welding. This is also known as a plastic welding, because here the temperature does not goes beyond its melting point. Here the material is plasticized, that is why, and it is joined together, that is why what happens, this is called plastic welding. Now in non-pressure welding or fusion welding, in this welding process the material at the joint is heated to a molten state and allowed to solidify. So here the temperature goes beyond its melting point, so here metal become liquefied. So here no external pressure is required to put to join the metal. Here generally due to this intermetallic fusion, that means here generally due to fusion of molten metal, here joining is taken place. Now pressure and non-pressure welding, this we can group whatever the welding techniques I have already told in classification of source of heat. The similar welding categories can be here also we can put together. Depending upon this application of pressure, welding can be categorized into 2 different categories. One is fusion welding, another one is pressure welding. This fusion welding is also, this is also called fusion welding or non-pressure welding. So in fusion welding categories, there is all the welding process which is in the categories of arc welding, which is gas welding, then electron, that means radiation energy welding. Radiation energy welding. This in fusion welding the temperature goes beyond its melting point. These categories, in these categories all arc welding process, gas welding process and radiation energy processes come into this category. In case of pressure welding, in these categories Solid state welding process generally come in these categories. Like this solid state welding can be grouped into two different categories. One is resistance welding, and another one is can be friction welding. So, depending upon the pressure application of pressure, the welding can be categorized into non-pressure welding or fusion welding, or it can be pressure welding. Generally, non-pressure welding, it consists all gas welding technique, arc welding technique and power beam welding techniques. Whereas in pressure welding techniques, generally there are different types of plastic or solid state welding process are there, where generally the material become plasticized, and due to application of pressure it joined together. In this category there can be friction welding, there can be ultrasonic welding, there can be cold pressure welding, there can be induction welding, and in resistance welding also there can be different types of resistance welding like spot, seam, projection, butt and flash welding. And generally in non-pressure welding, I have already told you whatever the all welding techniques I have explained in gas, arc and power beam welding. In this categories, generally all the welding techniques lie in non-pressure welding techniques. Now, depending upon the different phases of base and filler material, this welding can be further categorized into three different categories. That means phases, especially here, whether here it is liquid phase or solid phase. Generally during welding, the material which we are using, that can goes to liquid state, solid state, or there can be both liquid and solid state. So, what happens if the material goes beyond its melting state, that is called liquid state welding. That means here the phase is liquid. Then in solid state welding, generally here the temperature does not goes beyond its melting points. Here generally material is in solid state. That's why this is called solid state welding process. And solid liquid state means here generally one part of the material is in solid state and other part of the material is in liquid state. So, that's why it is called solid liquid state welding. Especially here filler material, in case of solid liquid state welding, here the filler material which we are using for joining, that filler material goes beyond its melting points, and the material which is used to join that material, that means parent material here generally does not goes beyond its melting points. Generally in liquid state welding process, all fusion welding process or non-pressure welding process are in this group. Then in solid state welding can be friction welding, it can be ultrasonic welding, diffusion, force, roll or explosive welding. And in solid liquid state welding process, this can be soldering, and another one is brazing process. Now, depending upon the composition of joint, this welding can be further categorized into three different categories. It can be autogeneous, it can be homogeneous, or it can be heterogeneous. In autogeneous welding, generally here no filler material is used during joining. That is why it is called autogeneous welding process. In these categories of welding process, generally all solid state welding or solid phase welding is come. Generally then here there will be resistance welding and non-consumable welding process. Non-consumable welding process means where there is not use any filler material to fill the gap between two piece of metal or material. In homogeneous welding, generally the composition of filler material and the base material or the parent material is same. So, that is why here this welding process is called homogeneous welding process. In homogeneous welding process, all arc welding process, gas welding process and thermit welding process is come. Then in heterogeneous welding, the filler material and the base material which we are going to join have different composition. Generally in these categories, soldering and brazing is come. Soldering and brazing are come. Now, depending upon the position of welding, this welding can be further categorized into 5 different categories. This can be downhand or flat welding process, this can be horizontal process, this can be vertical down welding process, this can be vertical up welding process, and this can be overhead welding process. These welding process are arranged according to the complexity of the process. Like here, this downhand welding process is easiest process, and here because here the filler material is deposited toward the direction of gravity. That is why it is the easiest welding process, downhand welding process. And this overhead welding process is the most complex welding process, because in this welding process generally the electrode or filler material we have to deposit it against the gravity. So, what happens? This is tough welding process. This is the most complex welding process according to the position of welding. In this figure, this is called downhand welding process, where the electrode we are applying this electrode in downhand direction, in the direction of gravity. That is why it is called downhand welding process. This is the figure for butt welding process. Now, this is called horizontal welding process. Horizontal welding process means where the movement of electrode is horizontal direction. That is why what happens here, generally electrode position is horizontal to the surface of the plate. That is why it is called horizontal welding process. In case of vertical downhand welding process, here generally there is movement of the electrode toward the downward direction vertically, and here this in case of vertical upward direction, that means vertical up welding process, here the movement of electrode towards the upward direction in vertically. And in overhead welding, here the electrode is put against the gravity. That means this is the electrode which is put against the gravitational direction. Similarly, these are the different types of the positional welding for fillet welded joint, like this is downhand. Here generally electrode is put downward direction. It is horizontal welding process, where the electrode is positioned horizontal direction, and this is vertical down hand welding process. Here electrode moves towards downhand direction or downward direction, and this is a vertical up. Here generally electrode movement and position toward vertically upward direction. And this is the overhead welding process, where the electrode, this is the electrode, this electrode is put against the gravity. That is why this is called overhead welding process. So, from this figure also one can easily be able to observe that okay, this overhead welding techniques is more tough, and here the easiest welding process is downhand welding process, that means this welding process or this welding process. Now, depending upon the mechanism, this welding can be categorized into another 3 different categories or 3 different categories. This can be manual welding, this can be semi-automatic welding, or this can be fully automatic welding. Now, before going to in details about manual welding and semi-automatic welding, here we should know 2 very important parameters of welding. One is called feeding of electrode, and another one is called welding speed, transverse speed, or this is sometimes called traverse speed. Now, generally feeding of electrode, generally in case of welding, to deposit the filler material, there is a continuous movement of feed of electrode is there. So, that has also a speed. So, that is why what happens, this is a very important parameter. Generally this feeding of electrode decide how much molten material should deposit along the welding region. So, this is a very important parameter. And welding traverse speed means what should be the speed of welding per second or per hour. That means how much length of welding should be done per minute or per second or per hour. So, these two parameter is very important parameter. Based on these two parameters, generally this welding can be categorized in three different categories. One is manual welding, one is semi-automatic welding, another one is fully automatic welding. Like in case of manual welding, if this feeding of electrode and welding traverse is feed control manually, that is why this is called manual welding process. Like SMAW, that means shielded manual metal arc welding is generally in this group. In case of semi-automatic welding process, in this welding process generally feeding of electrode or welding traverse sheet, either one of these is controlled manually and another one is controlled automatically. So, here one part of this welding parameter is controlled automatically, that is why this is called semi-automatic welding process. In this category generally MIG welding, TIG welding is come. Like in MIG welding means metal inert gas, or GMAW welding, this is also called GMAW welding. Now, fully automatic means once both of these parameters, that means feeding of electrode and welding traverse speed, both is controlled automatically, then that is called fully automatic process. In these categories, there is lot of latest welding technologies are there, like submerged arc welding, laser welding, electron beam welding also in these categories. Now, we have already discussed about different welding process. Now, we will see what are the different types of weld joint. Generally, there are 5 different types of welding joints are there, where these 5 different welding joints are, one is called butt joint, another one is called T-joint, another one is called lap joint, another one is called corner joint, and another one is called edge joint. This symmetric diagram shows this is first one is butt joint, this second one is T-joint, third one is lap joint, corner joint and edge joint. The detail about this weld joint I will discuss in subsequent slides. Now, before going to in details about butt welding and different types of welding joint, here first of all I will discuss about edge preparation of weld joint. Edge preparation or edge shaping may be applied to each piece in a same way, or combination of the joint preparation may be used. The edge preparation for welding joint depends on strength requirement and other design consideration. That means, here generally edge preparation is done in a welding joint depending upon strength requirement and some design consideration. There are generally 6 different edge preparation commonly used for welding joint. These are edge square edge, generally in this edge preparation, edge of the workpiece has a shape which is a square in nature. That means there is no edge preparation is there. So, that is why this is called a square edge preparation. Then second edge preparation is bevel edge preparation. In these categories, here a bevel types of shape is provided. This is bevel edge preparation, where a shape of angle put in the workpiece. In case of double bevel edge preparation generally put for thicker section, especially for thicker section, where generally bevel angle is made from both the side of the, from top side as well as bottom side of the plate. Then in chamfer welding, in this category generally the chamfer edge preparation is look like a bevel with a root face. This category, this is generally chamfer type of edge preparation. There can be J group edge preparation. In J group edge preparation, generally the edge of the plate is look like this, that means J shape, and this can be double J group also. Double J group generally used for thicker types of weld plate. From this side as well from this side. So, this is generally double J. So, from top side of the plate as well as from bottom side of the plate generally edge preparation is done. So, these are the edge, all edges which generally prepared for strength requirement or some design consideration of the welded joint. So, this generally 6 different types of S preparation is there. Now depending upon this weld joint and S preparation, all welding has been categorized into many different categories, like different bar joint with their S preparation. You see, by applying generally different S preparation in bar joint, there can be different types of bar welding joint. Like you see here, generally the S preparation is done. Here generally the S preparation is done in first categories, S square type S preparation is done. That is why in this welding process known as S square groove bar joint. Because here generally S square S preparation is used for which types of joint? Bar joint. Now before going to details about all these categories, here we should know what is bar joint. A bar joint is formed generally when the pieces to be welded are laid side by side. Generally here this piece and this piece is laid side by side. So here all the joining categories, all the weld joint here, whatever the welded joint here we are showing, all the joint categories is A square, all the joint categories are bar joint, different types of bar joint. Here the name of this, here generally bevel types of S preparation is made. That is why this welding technique's name is bevel groove bar joint. Here as this bevel is made both top and bottom side of the plate, that is why it is called double bevel bar joint. This is generally here this shape is made which is look like V, that is why this is called V groove bar joint. Here as this V is put both top and bottom side, that is why this is called double V bar joint. Similarly, as this is J shape is made or J S preparation is made here, that is why it is called J groove bar joint. As this J is put both top and bottom side, that is why it is called double J bar joint. So in this way, generally depending upon the S preparation and type of joint, there can be different types of welding joint for bar welding categories itself. So this is generally called U groove bar joint. Because here the shape of the S preparation is looking U type, and this is called double U groove bar joint. Because here both top and bottom side U groove is made. Now here we should know little bit why this top side, bottom side, why double side, single side S preparation is required. This S preparation and S preparation in the welding joint is required because of different reason. The main reason of this S preparation is proper accessibility of filler material in the welding or on joint region is very much essential. So if we make S preparation properly for a particular joining process, then what happens, we can get better quality of welding, both strength as well as life of the structure point of view. Now what happens, generally this S preparation is done for better accessibility of filler material and electrode. Now here one things we can see, this single types of S preparation, that means single types of S preparation means bevel groove, single bevel groove, single V groove, single J groove, single U groove. These are the single groove S preparation generally done for thin section, but these double types of thing, double bevel, double V, double J, double U group butt joint generally applied for. Generally, if the thickness of the plate is more, then double types of or both sides preparation is required. Here one very important things we should know, this butt welding joint is the most widely used welding joint. Now T-joint. T-joint generally it is formed when one piece of metal to be welded is placed vertically on another piece by lying horizontally to form the shape of an inverted T. A T-joint is formed when one piece of metal to be welded is placed vertically on another piece lying horizontally to form the shape of a inverted T. Inverted T means that this is the inverted T shape. Generally in this fillet joint, this bottom one is called flange and this top one is called, this vertical one is called web of the structure. Now here the vertical member which is put here, here the angle of this vertical member is at an angle of 90 degree to the horizontal member. Now here the type of weld joint or type of weld here is used, that is called generally fillet weld. The joining which is done in case of fillet welding process, that is generally called fillet weld. Generally here the fillet weld resemble triangle when viewed from the side. If you see the fillet weld, then it resemble a triangular shape from the side of the structure, side of the welded joint. So what happens here, the weld resembles a triangle when viewed from the side. The most widely used type of weld applied to a T-joint is the fillet weld. This weld resembles triangle when viewed from the side. Now different types of T-joint here is explained. Generally this T-joint vertical piece can also be prepared using a V-well or J shape. Like if the V-well shape is made, then this is called V-well T-joint. This is called V-well T-joint because here this vertical piece S preparation is done in a type of V-well shape. That's why it is called V-well T-joint. If both the side V-well is made on this vertical piece, then this is called double V-well T-joint. Because here you see this side and this side, both the side generally V-well is made. If in a vertical piece J shape is made or J group is made, then that is called J groove T-joint. And if this J group is made both the side of this vertical piece, then that is called double J groove T-joint. Now different types of lap joint. Now first of all we should know what is lap joint. A lap joint is formed when one piece to be welded is laid down and another piece is overlapped to form an edge for fillet welding or an area to allow plug or slot welding. That means here the pieces of two material plate put together and overlapped each other. So here generally this lap welding can be three different categories depending upon this joining process. Generally this lap weld joint can be three different categories. It can be fillet type, fillet welded lap joint, it can be plug welded lap joint, or it can be slot welded lap joint. In case of fillet welded lap joint, here in case of overlap plate, fillet welding, that means triangular shape welding is done. Here you see this side and this side, generally whatever the welding, let this two plate, this is one plate, this is another plate. These two plate is overlapped each other. So at the edge, here generally for welding there is a edge. In this edge generally what happens, a triangular shape welding is done. So it is generally called fillet welding. That is why this is called fillet welded lap joint. This lap joint also can be done by plug welding also. A plug weld is made by welding holes evenly spaced across the length of one or both sides of the joint. That means a plug weld is made by welding holes evenly spaced across the length of one or both sides of the joint. That means this plug welding is done by putting hole, like here we put a hole, top surface of the, here you see this, let this one plate, this is another plate. So, this top plate is overlapped with this bottom plate. Now, here generally what happens, there can be different types of hole like this, it can be placed evenly, or this evenly placed hole. After that what happens, here generally filler material is deposited. Once we take the cross section of this joint, we can get the cross section view of the joint like this. That means this is the generally filler material which is deposited. Due to these things joined together. This lap joint also can be another categories like slot welding. Here generally instead of putting a hole, there is make a slot. Now, here one thing we should keep it in mind, at the end of this slot, this should be either semicircular, or this semicircular radius should be more than thickness of the plate. This whatever the radius, here we should use this radius should be more than the thickness of the plate. Thickness of plate. So, the difference between plug and slot welding, in case of plug welding generally there is put a circular hole, whereas in slot welding generally they are put a slot. Apart from this thing, other weld may also be applied in lap joint, such as seam or projection types of welding. Now, different types of corner joint and their edge preparation. This corner joint also can be the corner joint we can define. A corner joint is formed by placing one piece to be welded on the other, so that a corner is formed. Here you see, so that a corner is formed. It may be flush, half open or fully open categories. For proper penetration and strength, an edge preparation may be applied to one or both of the piece of the joint. For proper penetration and strength, an edge preparation may be applied to one or both of the piece of the weld. Here you see there is different categories of corner joint is there, where generally a corner joint is formed by placing one piece to be welded on the other, so that a corner here is formed. Everywhere there is formed a corner. Now, you see this corner joint, depending upon its edge preparation, also can be different types. This corner joint here you see, this first one is called flush corner joint. This is called flush corner joint. This second one is called half flush corner joint. Half flush corner joint. Here generally this third one is called fully open corner joint. It is called fully open corner joint, because this corner is generally open. Here this corner is half open. Here this corner is fully closed. That is why this is called flush corner joint. Now, depending upon this edge preparation, you see this edge preparation we can make either one piece of this plate or both the piece of the plate, like both the piece of the plate. Now, here this category, in this category, the name of this categories is bevel corner inside. This category's welding is Weevil corner inside joint. Here this weevil is made outside of the plate, that is why this is called weevil corner outside. Here generally a V shape is made, that is why it is called V groove corner joint. You see, these all are different categories of corner joint. So every joint, these 5 different categories of joint which I have already told you, these 5 different categories also have different other categories depending upon its edge preparation. This one is called J groove corner inside, J groove corner. Here this J group is made inside, that is why it is called J group corner inside joint. Here the J group is made outside, that is why this is called J group corner outside joint, and this one is called U groove corner joint. Here a U shape is made, that is why it is called U groove corner joint. Now these are the different categories of edge joint and their edge preparation. An edge joint is formed when the two edges of the piece to be welded come together. That means an edge joint is formed when the two edges of the pieces to be welded come together. This joint is not widely used as like other welding process like butt, corner or a T joint, or generally these are the joining process which are widely used, but this corner edge joint generally very rarely used. Like here you see these first categories, as there is no edge preparation is made, that is why this category joint name is A square groove edge joint. A square groove edge joint. This second categories, this categories is called as weevil is made in one plate or one piece of material, that is why it is called weevil groove edge joint. So here will be the edge term, that means edge joint term. This will be V groove edge joint. Here as J groove is made, that is why it is called J groove edge joint. And as here the U groove is made, that is why it is called U groove edge joint. These are all different categories of weld joint and their edge preparation. These are the very important things which is very much essential once you will be in industry. Now here these are all joint you have seen. Now we will see what are the shape of weld of all these joint. The shape of the weld can be butt weld, the shape of the weld can be fillet weld, or the shape of the weld can be compound weld. So butt weld is done along the thickness direction of the plate. So, whereas the fillet welding, which is resemble triangular in shape, which I have already explained, and if in a structure there is a combination of 2 or 3 different types of weld are there, then that weld is called compound weld. Here you see, here both butt as well as fillet welding part is there, that is why this is called compound weld. So, there can be edge weld whose shape is look like this. Generally this weld is put at the edge of the plate, and I have already explained about plug welding and spot welding also. Plug welding, here the shape of the weld, once you see the side view which is look like this, and once we see the spot welding which is look like this. But in case of plug weld, generally there is made a circular hole, and in case of plug weld, in case of spot weld, generally there is put this is generally slot weld, actually slot, not a spot weld. This is generally slot weld. Here generally instead of putting a circular hole, here generally put a slot and with round shape at the edge of that slot. Now we will see what is the name of different types of butt weld and their joint. Here you see this, once we go for filling this gap, this name, what should be the name of this, or what we should write in this gap, that we should know, like shape and name of different types of weld. Here you see, as the butt welding is done in butt joint, butt welding is done in butt joint, that is why this name is here, this name of should be butt welded butt joint. Here in case of butt joint, as the triangular shape weld is made or that fillet welding is made, that is why it is called fillet welded butt joint. In this case, two different thicknesses plate side by side, that means two different plate laid side by side. This is one thickness, bigger thickness of plate, this is another smaller thickness of plate put side by side. So, here generally two different types of weld is made here. One is generally butt joint, this one is generally butt weld, and this triangular shape outside of this thickness, generally here this is called generally fillet weld. These are all weld. So, as these two different types of weld put together, that is why in case of butt joint, as these two different types of weld put together, that is why this is called compound welded butt joint. So, here this weld which we made here, this is generally compound welded butt joint. Now, similarly for T joint also, here the weld which we made, which is triangular in nature, and that is why this is called generally, this triangular shape weld is called fillet weld. That is why this in this gap we should write the fillet welded T joint. So, this is a type of fillet welded, what types of joint? This is T joint, that is why it is written like this. So, this is generally welding is done along the thickness of this plate, that is why this is called butt welded T joint, and a T is formed, that is why it is called T joint. As it is a T joint, these all are T joint, that is why this is called T joint. And here both fillet as well as butt, generally we do it both, this is generally fillet weld and this is generally butt weld, as here we made, that is why this is called, as combination of two different types of weld is there, that is why it is called compound welded. What types of joint this is? This weld joint is T joint, that is why it is called compound welded T joint. Now, here these are the different shape and its name. For corner joint also, that this can be different shape and its name also. For corner joint also we can put different weld name, we can have different weld also here. In case of corner joint also we can have different types of weld name. Like this first one, here generally the welding is made along the thickness of the plate, that is why this is called butt welded close corner. Butt welded, here butt weld is done for what types of joint? Close corner joint. That I have already explained in details in categories of corner joint, what is close corner joint. But here what types of weld we made? Here the weld we made, that is butt type, that is why it is called butt welded close corner joint. In this case, generally here we made a fillet weld, and this joint is open corner joint. This open corner joint I have already explained previously in the categories of corner joint, all categories of corner joint. So, that is why the name of this weld joint should be, the name of this weld joint should be fillet welded corner joint. Similarly, here generally this fillet is done in case of a corner close corner joint. Here generally this fillet welding is done in case of a close corner joint, that is why the name of this welding will be fillet welded close corner joint. Here generally another, this fillet is done generally inside, as this in this case as the fillet is done inside, that is why it is called inside fillet, inside fillet welded close corner joint. Here this weld is, fillet is done outside the joint, that is why this has a name which is called outside fillet welded corner joint. Now, here both butt as well as fillet welding is done in case of close corner joint, that is why the name of this welding is compound welded close corner joint. Here you see this plate is put and which make a close corner. Here also you see both inside and outside fillet is made here, that is why here this is one types of weld is made. Here there is not two type of weld, that is why as here one types of weld is made, that is fillet weld. This is also fillet weld type and this is also type of fillet. So, here generally there is not two different types of weld, that is why this is not a compound welded open corner joint. This the name of, as two different fillet welding is done here, that is why its name is double fillet welded corner joint. Now, this is very important because you see once we will be in industry, generally we will be given some sort of drawing and there will be written or some sort of data sheet they will provide us, and what happens, there will be written some sort of name like this, like butt welded close corner joint we have to do, or fillet welded open corner joint we have to do. If there will be written like this, to see the name or should see this data sheet itself, we can do all types of S preparation and all types of welding also we can do according to that data sheet, if we know the all nomenclature of different welding joint. Actually, if we know the different welding joint and weld name, then what happens, we can easily be able to do that work very easily. Now, here you see these are the different shape of lap joint. Here you see, here generally fillet welding is done, this is a fillet welding is done, that is why this is called fillet welded lap joint. Here generally a spot welding is done, that is why it is called spot welded lap joint. Here both fillet as well as spot welding is done. Here you see this triangular shape weld as well as this spot weld shape also we made, that is why this is called compound welded lap joint. Now, different part of a joint. We have already discussed about different types, different categories of welding process, different categories of welding joint, different type of weld and different types of welded joint, that we have explained in details. Now, we will go to what are the different important part of a welds are there. In a welding, there are 8 different parts are there. That elements are like joint root, groove face, root face, root edge, root opening, bevel angle, groove angle and groove radius. These detailed parts of this detailed part of a welded joint I will explain in next lecture.